Welcome to another Rattle and Hum Sports podcast. Bryan Houston here with us, and we're talking Big 12 basketball right now and basketball in general with our Big 12 insider, Kevin Lonnquist. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing pretty well, Bryan. Thanks.
All right, we first of all, let's take care of the Big 12 business at hand. Kansas goes out, as we've talked about it before, Kansas and the Nine Herbs, and finally the Big One got knocked out in the tournament before the Final Four. What do you make of that? Were you surprised at all?
As far as from a surprise standpoint, yes and no. Yes, because I thought they've been playing so well lately that I thought they might have overcome some of their deficiencies. Because, you know, as we've talked about on many times between your shows, that I've said their defense has been so good. But then, as we talked about, and I wrote a piece on this for Rattle and Hum last week, is the one kryptonite that they've always had has been their point guard situation with Elijah Johnson. And when you're Kansas and you're up 14 with a little over 6 minutes to go, and you're up 10 with 2 minutes to go, that should be pretty much all you. But he commits 3 turnovers during that time, and that allows Michigan to get the line. And of course, he missed a big free throw with 12 seconds left. That would have made it a 2-possession game. Instead, it gives them life, and then Trey Burke hits one from, I think, Weatherford to get the thing tied and send it into overtime. And then from there, Michigan just pretty much had the momentum. Trey Burke was amazing. Now remember, he's the Big Ten Player of the Year. We talked about this last week. Now, I said that the Kansas guards are really going to have to decide who they're going to have to go after. If they're going to have to go after Burke or if they're going to have to go after Tim Hardaway Jr. And they've done a great job of shutting down Burke in the first half. In fact, he didn't even score. So he scores all 23 points between the second half and the overtime period. And that's what happens when you don't stay on somebody like that. Now, you tip your cap to Trey because he hits the shot that's just ridiculous and gets the thing tied. But again, this goes back to where Kansas's guards couldn't close it out. And that's what you really need to have when you're moving on in the NCAA tournament. You really need to be sound with your guard play. And eventually that just caught up with the Jayhawks, and that's why they're done.
In the meantime, Baylor is making some noise in the NIT now. They will play Iowa at the time that we are recording this podcast on a Thursday afternoon. They're playing Iowa this evening. What do you make of Baylor, and does this mean anything? Does the NIT mean anything to a program like Baylor right now?
I think it does from the standpoint with Baylor's season as disappointing as it was, the fact that they went 18-14 and didn't make the NCAA tournament, basically through their own inconsistency, just from everywhere on the guards, from the front post with Isaiah Austin, their freshman post sensation, who is very inconsistent this year and is probably gone after this game against the Hawkeyes. So I think it isn't the championship, but it is a championship. And if you're still and the one thing about these tournaments, Bryan, whether it's the NIT or the CBI or the CIT, is what is your attitude about wanting to play it? I mean, we saw it with Kentucky when they went on the road and lost at Robert Morris because you could tell that the Wildcats just did not want to be there. But when you look at Baylor's situation, I think Scott Drew really told it to his kids and said, look, we've had a really bad year in terms of not being as consistent as we want to be. This is a chance to kind of make up for what we didn't do very well in the regular season. It gets us practice and keeps us practicing because remember, Scott's got a pretty young roster. Even though he's going to lose Pierre Jackson and 2 other seniors off that squad. A.J. Walton is the 2 guard off that team. And I think one of those things that he has to try and tell his clubs is this is a chance for us to keep practicing, keep working. So there is something at stake. Now, they're going to get really pushed by Iowa as we're recording this, as you said. They're going to get really pushed by Iowa because Iowa came into this game really hot. The Hawkeyes probably could have made the NCAA tournament if they had more quality wins in the Big Ten. The fact was that they didn't, and they also had a bad loss in Nebraska, who didn't even have a winning record this year, and that's probably why they're out. The thing in this game that was going to be pretty key for Baylor was how are they going to try and shut down or at least contain Devin Marble, who is a 6'6" guard/forward player, really talented and has been very, very strong throughout the tournament. The other thing that they were going to have to be careful of was by way of last, because I was one of the best rebounding teams in the country. They were averaging like 39 a game this year, They said they've been really dangerous, and if Baylor can't keep them off the board, and that means the Hawkeyes are going to get second and third opportunities, and that's going to be really, really difficult for them as well. So I think that's going to be pretty important for them to make sure that they can at least stay with the Hawkeyes on the glass. I think Baylor, it's going to be a really tight game as we're talking about this. I think it could be at max, in my estimation, a 3-possession game with somebody winning like 76-70 or 75-70 or something along those lines. That's what I'm seeing in this game. I think Baylor can edge it, but I think it's going to be really tight.
Okay. And then the other big news in the Big 12 this week, Texas Tech hires fired Minnesota coach Tubby Smith. Good move?
I think for Tech it is. This is probably going to be Tubby Smith's last job because he's 61 years old. And I think if you're Tech fans, you're going to look at this hire and say, you know, I don't understand why Minnesota would have fired him when he took them to the NCAA tournament 3 out of his 6 years. But the fact was that Tubby had a very disappointing team with Minnesota this year. They went 8-10, with arguably the best team that he had, and they had some really bad losses. We mentioned Iowa. Minnesota, that's one of the weird games of the year is that Minnesota went to Iowa this year and was up 15 early, and then wound up losing by 21. And then they lost at Nebraska, then they lost at Purdue. And so it's just really kind of a bad season. I think for Tubby, it kind of restores some credibility, and he will bring some stability to Tech. That's what they need. And if he can find a way to get them into the NCAA tournament, which is all Tech is looking for, really, I think that'll be good for them. They just needed some sort of name and star power. I wouldn't expect Tech to be a major factor in the recruiting game because that's where Tubby's weakness was when he got to Minnesota. And so I don't see him going head-to-head against the likes of Oklahoma State or Texas or Baylor to try and go get the same type of kid.
With the right coach, Kevin, could Texas Tech be able to be an Oklahoma State level program, you think?
I don't think so. I think what Bob Knight did there back in the late 90s, early aughts, was probably about as good as you're going to get. You're going to have, Bob had to go away to get some JUCO kids to come in there and kind of help offshoot some things, which is something that Bob never wanted to do until the second half of his career. But I don't see where Tech is going to ever kind of reach that level. There's a difference, too, because Oklahoma State's program, they've only got really one program to really battle with for a lot of kids.
Right.
And that's OU. Now, they don't really have to worry about Tulsa too much because they're really not going to be recruiting the same type of kids. And the other thing, too, is that Oklahoma State has a better history in basketball. They can draw a little bit better than what Tech can offer. So I think that's where Oklahoma State has the advantage. Plus, they have a heck of a venue, one of the best in college basketball in Gallagher Island. So I just don't see that with Tech being on an equal plane with Oklahoma State. I think Tech can be a better program, and they can probably find their way into the NCAA tournament like they did under Bob Knight, or maybe James Dickey before Bob, but I don't see them ever being an upper division type of Big 12 basketball program.
And I'm going to throw one out, just self-serving thing. A shout-out to my buddy Danny Casper at Stephen F. Austin. He had the best season of any college in Texas this past season. Former Baylor assistant under Gene Iba, and he gets the Texas State job today.
Well, it's a good move for him. I mean, that's obviously, Danny did a great job at Stephen F. Austin there for what I think was 14, 15 years, and had some great games. In fact, I got a chance to watch him against Stanford.
Yep.
In the first round of the NIT, and his kids played hard. I mean, they had a chance in that game, especially when you go on the road to a place like Stanford. And but I think for Danny, this is a great step for him to move up and take a chance into a conference where Texas State really wants to advance itself. And I think this is a great opportunity for Danny. And if this is probably going to be his last out, then he'll make the most of it, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's go back to the Final Four. There were several things that happened this weekend. First of all, the most memorable thing, the gruesome accident that cost Kevin Ware from Louisville, that horrible break of the leg. I wanted to know what you thought of that when you saw that, and if you felt like that spurred the Louisville Cardinals on, or did it help them or hurt them? I don't know. I mean, obviously they're in the Final Four. Couldn't have hurt them much, but that was unbelievable.
Yeah, Yeah, and, to be honest with you, I was out of the room when it happened because I was tending to a couple other things. But when I came back in, obviously they were showing the replays of the Louisville players reacting, of course, and that was the time when CBS had stopped showing the replay of the bone puncturing or going through the skin of his leg, which, of course, I've seen later on some still pictures that have gone viral all over the internet. You're right. It's just one of those horrible injuries. You can't explain it. And I think I think it did serve as a motivating factor for the Louisville players because all that anyone ever talked about posting was Kevin telling his teammates, "I'll be fine. Just go win the game. I'll be fine. Just go win the game." And I think the players drew upon that. And I think those are very either-or situations. And if the player's in so much pain that he can't talk and he's hard to console, which would be understandable, of course, and that could sink a team, but the way Blair reacted to it, it just told his players, told his teammates, go get it done, get after it, play hard, go get it, that sort of thing. I think it really made a difference for them. Plus, Louisville's a really good team anyway, Brian. I mean, Kevin was coming off the bench, one of the top two players coming off the bench, and it hurt their depth. Those kids really rose to the occasion. And I think they found another gear, and that's why they're here and why they sent Duke packing by 20-plus points.
When you look at the Final Four matchups this weekend, what are you picking?
Well, I'm really hesitant to say that we're going to have an all Big East final or a repeat of the Big East championship game between Louisville and Syracuse, but that's what my gut is telling me. And Louisville, they're really, really good, Brian. I mean, I picked them. They were the only one of the four number one seeds. Remember, I told you this whole tournament started 2 weeks ago that I thought that all four top seeds were going to get through, but I liked Louisville to win it. So here the Cardinals are. I mean, Russ Smith, who's just an outstanding player. I mean, the guy knows how to score. He just has he's just a great leader on the floor. You got a kid like Hancock, who's a dangerous 3-point shooter. And Louisville will just get after you defensively. And they're the ones, like if they meet up against Syracuse again, if you remember the Big East final, they were down by like 16 points in the early stages of the second half. And they went on like a 47-15 run to end that game to win the Big East championship and win that thing going away. And Louisville just, I think they're so locked in that they're probably going to win it. I would say that they're probably going to face Syracuse, but I think Michigan's got a really good chance. And the thing is that with Syracuse, and I'm not discrediting, by the way, I'm not going to discredit Wichita State, because what Greg Marshall's done with that team, that's not a fluke. You don't get through the top two seeds in the West region in both Gonzaga and Ohio State because you just lucked your way through it. They outplayed those teams, and they deserve to be where they are in Atlanta. But I just think that the pressure of Louisville is going to get after Wichita State, probably wear them down. Having said that, just to get back to the Syracuse-Michigan game, which will be the second game and probably in the highlight game, I think the key for Michigan is going to be is how well they can get their freshman post, Mitch McGarry, involved in the offense, try and put him in the middle of the floor, get that signature 2-3 on that Jim Boeheim likes to throw out there. Now, think about this. John Beilein, who was the coach of West Virginia when West Virginia was in the Big East, and he's 0-9 lifetime against Jim Boeheim in Syracuse. So this will be his first meeting with a different team against him. What did that mean? Well, probably nothing. But at the same time, I think he'll have better talent at Michigan than he did at West Virginia. So it's going to be fun to see how John will prepare against that zone. I think Michigan can win the game. I don't see how they're going to in terms of winning it down the stretch, because if they don't get really good looks from the perimeter, and if they start missing some shots from the outside, then that's when that zone becomes even more impressive, and then you really start to rush more shots, and then you really look bad shooting, kind of like what Syracuse did to Marquette last week.
I got to tell you, though, I fell in love with that Michigan team, and I'm really, really hoping for a Michigan-Louisville game, because I think that thing's going to be 300 miles an hour.
Well, it would be fun to watch. I mean, that would be just from an athletic standpoint or from a television standpoint. It would be better to have Michigan versus Louisville. Like I said, I would favor Syracuse, but there's no reason to think that Michigan can't win it. I mean, these are both four seeds that are playing each other. Again, the key is going to be what Hardaway and Trey Burke can do against that 2-3 zone. And again, as I mentioned, Mitch McGarry, who's really stepped it up here in the NCAA tournament. If he can find a way to mix it in and be effective on the glass and cutting through the middle of the zone for some shots or some putbacks or things like that, that's going to make all the difference.
Ought to be a fun Final Four. Okay, a couple of other big stories this week in college basketball. First of all, is there any doubt in your mind that Rutgers had to fire Coach Mike Rice after seeing the video of him verbally and physically abusing his team in practice?
No, in fact, you and I were talking about this during the week, and we were of the opinion that, we were of the opinion that if he doesn't survive this, it would be a shock. And I think that there really wasn't anywhere to go with this, especially when it started to get as viral as it did, and when it was broken nationally. It was just a matter of when Mike Rice was going to get fired, and if. And I think as far as Tim Fernetti is concerned, now it's been reported that Fernetti, the athletic director there, is probably safe because of the influence he's had over helping Rutgers get into the Big Ten. I'm still not sure I'm totally on board with that thinking, even though he did originally discipline Mike Rice. But then again, as all of us being in the media and watching this, when that story came out in December, we just kind of passed it off. We didn't really pay much mind. And then all of a sudden, when the video comes out a couple of days ago, then that's when it takes on a new life of its own. And so I think that maybe I still don't think that Fernetti's job is totally safe unless there's a further investigation. I know there was a story that came out today that's from the Rutgers faculty that the president of the university should resign, and they're calling for that. So, we'll just kind of see how this plays itself out. I don't think that story's done yet up there in Piscataway, New Jersey.
Well, based on what we saw in that video, the fact that they sat on this and didn't take immediate action against Mike Rice, I'm of the opinion they need to sweep house. They just need to clean out the whole place, because I don't know how you look at that video and say, well, it was a first offense. It's like saying, I'm going to shoot somebody in the head, but it was a first offense, so I'm just going to get a week in solitary confinement and then I'm free.
Right. Well, I totally agree with you. The 3-game suspension, the $50,000 fine, I think there's probably facts that people are saying, well, this was brought up by Eric Murdoch, whose contract wasn't renewed back in July of last year because of the allegations that he brought against Mike Rice. And so,
well, the video doesn't lie, though,
Oh, I'm sorry?
I said the video doesn't lie, though, whether Murdoch had reason or not. That video is so damning that, there's no excuse.
Oh, exactly. I mean, that's the same thing when when that video broke when Bob Knight grabbed Neil Reed about 12 years ago.
Right.
12, 13 years ago, and that led to Bob's firing at Indiana. This one's a little bit more. I mean, I'm not trying to compare apples and apples here, but again, the Royce video was far more damning because you can just see him constantly throwing balls at players. Of course, there's no audio that I have seen, but of course, all the use of all these epithets and the case slurs are totally uncalled for. And today, it's funny because I've talked to some guys that are probably in their 50s and early 60s who were, playing college and high school sports during the 60s and 70s and early 80s, when it was still old school, and that just came with the territory.
Right.
I just looked at them and said, you're right. We're in a different world now where there is so much social media and so much losing the court of public opinion. And if something like this ever got out back in 1976, like it would now in 2013, the same result would likely happen. And so,
I agree with you on that one. Okay, and the other big story, and it still blows my mind, that Ed Rush is still the head of basketball officiating in the Pac-12 after the comments that he reportedly made that were in a story by CBSSports.com. I don't know how this guy keeps his job after that, and the situation that happened with Arizona coach Sean Miller, where he basically, it may have been a joke that he offered a bounty for somebody to tee up Miller or run him in a ball game, but then for it to happen a day later in the Pac-12 tournament, I just don't see how the guy keeps his job.
Well, you're right about that. I think the problem that Ed Rush faces is that, for number one, it's so unprofessional to even jokingly say that. I don't know what would prompt someone to make a comment like that, knowing that there's the potential of people where something like this could get out. I mean, Ed Rush in his days as an NBA official was known for getting into it with NBA teams or with owners. I think there was a noted clash that he had with Mark Cuban, the owner of the Mavericks, and so this is not totally surprising that this has popped up again. I think Cuban, I think he tweeted something about this, that he wasn't surprised all that, although I'm not really concerned with Mark Cuban things, but I think it just kind of goes to show where we are with this in terms of, I just don't understand how the Pac-12 hired him. Let me say this. I know why they did, because he's an NBA official at the highest level, understands the game from an officiating standpoint, and knows how to work with officials. But given the baggage that is, also in his career, that's what part of the problem is, and that's where I'm going with this.
And then the thing about it, I agree with the baggage part of this. He's been trouble everywhere he's been. But the thing that really disturbs me is Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott thinks it's perfectly okay to fine Sean Miller $25,000 for the behavior when it was clear that Ed Rush, jokingly or not, was telling his officials to bait this guy and goad him into this situation. And then when he reacts the way you would expect, with the way that Ed Rush hoped he would react, that he would get fined and Ed Rush would keep his job. It just blows my mind.
If I was a Pac-12 president or Pac-12 athletic director, I would be on the phone with Larry Scott asking him what in the world he was doing to trying to defend this. And that the statement that should have come out of Larry Scott's office saying, we don't tolerate this behavior, we find this unacceptable, this matter will be reviewed. You know how those releases go. But the problem is that they did not handle this the way that they should have. In terms of, it's just been a big PR blunder, one after another. And that's a little bit surprising to Larry Scott, given his background and everything that he did, because he came from the world of professional tennis, where that was a sport that was kind of living in the back room, and he did a lot to gain visibility for that sport. And that's why the Pac-12 wanted him, so that he could do the same thing there. And to treat this as minimally, in my opinion, like he did, that's not good for him. And I know we're kind of on the, I know that we're kind of bringing state, torches and clubs and things like that in this podcast here, but you also have to wonder where Larry Scott stands in all this, with the members of the Pac-12 presidency, who are the ones who can absolutely retain him or let him move on. I don't know if they would seriously want to look at that, but if it were me, I would definitely want to look at it. Do we really want this guy representing the conference? Even though that, the one thing that Larry did do, though, was that he found a way that he got the conference football game, championship game played. He's also moved the Pac-12 basketball tournament to Las Vegas. And so I think, he's done some good things to help the visibility of it. But again, this incident, as isolating as it might be, not a really good move on his part. And I don't know if Larry Scott's future should be under scrutiny. I would think that it has to be at least discussed.
Well, I know if I was an administrator at Arizona right now, I'd make it my personal mission in life to try to take him out right now.
I totally agree with that. I mean, and I'm sure that there's been a lot of discussions from the Arizona administration with the Pac-12 offices behind the scenes, or with other Pac-12 schools and administrators, that they're pretty hopping mad about this, and they should be. There's just no room for that for Rush to stay in his position. I just don't see where. I think eventually over time we're probably going to see Ed moving on.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch over the next few days. Again, Kevin, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Of course, be sure and read Kevin's work in Rattle and Hum Sports. And, Kevin, we'll be talking to you down the line, okay?
Okay, Bryan. Always a pleasure.
Good to talk to you. Kevin Lonnquist, the Big 12 Insider for Rattle and Hum Sports.